Good morning, welcome to Morning Outlook. This is Kim speaking on Friday the 16th of February. So, slight change of format, although not massively in terms of how I'm looking at the currencies this morning. I do get asked what do you think is most likely to move this morning. I generally do it in order of the currencies that tend to move more in the morning, but well, here goes. I think the euro may be the easiest, possibly easiest. It's a bit of a between the euro and the pound anyway, so as I said, it's not a massive change of format, but what's going to be the most potential movers? Well, both the euro and the pound have got pivots underneath them that are untouched now. Yesterday I was looking for any opportunity to buy into a 21 moving average. It's a bitty old road, as you can see, and it never happened in the morning. It may not happen this morning, but the 21 still look good, but we have got the daily pivots below on both of these markets, and it may be just prudent to be waiting back in towards that daily pivot and see what happens. Of course, you could trade it back to the pivot, but there's not a great deal of points to be had. There is the risk that it will just push on up and knock us out of this market, but it's certainly something I'm looking at this morning. If we come back, just give you a bit more detail. Someone pointed out the weekly 500 to me yesterday, which had been off my chart for some reason slightly. And yes, it's there is some potential for it to push up there. However, there is some divergence. I'm not blind to the divergence that's sitting on the weekly either, so we'll see. But it has had a good shift so far. It has actually now diverged, so we are seeing a divergence here. So could we see an end of this run? Well, of course we could, but well, we'll just see, wait and watch. As I said, my preference is to see if we get some continuation. I quite like that 500 up there. It's sort of a bit of a focus point, but in the short term at least, as I said, I will look for a bounce on the euro this morning. If it happens. Pound, it's not too dissimilar. So it's a bit weaker. It hasn't pushed up quite the same in terms of it's not breaking into these sort of new high territory at all. But it's still had a decent move all the same, and quite a solid move so far. It's broken out of that downtrend, decent shove up, and it's pushing up as we can see at the moment. The same picture though on the hourlies here, maybe a little bit more distance to go to get back to its daily. Had a bit more range in it, marginally more range in it yesterday. Already up at the R1. Could it bounce off the 21s? Of course it could. It could see another one of these moves that, and it could run through a little bit. I mean, we saw it yesterday, but preference would be, if it happens earlier this morning, to look to see the reaction again. And it's all about the reaction when it hits these daily pivots. If it hits the daily pivots, to whether I'll buy in, but still looking at the longer side at the moment, but it hasn't got the divergences and things like this that the euro has, but so in some respects it might be a bit safer, but if the euro comes down, the pound isn't far behind. Okay, dollar yen then. Dollar yen had continued selling off. It's pushed through again in this session. It has found a bit of support here into its weekly S3. This may just contain it a little bit from that point of view. We've got a daily pivot above us, and well, it seems maybe a little bit more solid in pushing back for that at the moment. I know people want to trade this on the long side because they think it's getting a bit. There's signals on the upper time frame. There was divergence on some time frames, etc. I'm sure someone was pointing out divergence yesterday. I can't see it immediately here. May have been using a different indicator. However, it is getting a bit of a bounce here. It's probably a bit more of a solid back support there at the moment, but could push up towards the pivot. But again, if it gets to these sort of levels, I'd much prefer to be a seller most probably in this market. I suppose there is a caveat with these three currencies I've looked at so far. If it starts breaking through those pivots, well, drop that idea and review. Aussie dollar, it's again been solid pushing up. A bit more like the pound in terms of it's behind the curve of the euro, which is making new highs. This is just sort of had a deeper retracement here, but it is pushing up pretty solidly at the moment. But there's divergence going on those the 4 hourly bars. And again, well, we've touched the daily pivot there. It did have a deeper retrace yesterday. In fact, it sold off from the morning session really yesterday, and I think it can be quite open to maybe a quicker move and a bigger move on some of these corrections. It still isn't, in my book, as strong as the likes of the euro. Very commodity driven, so got to watch the commodities at the same time, as is the Canadian dollar. And looking at Canadian dollar at the moment, it's very slow. It's sluggish sort of moves. It's not, I mean, we had a couple of days ago, we had a good, decent move in direction. It's slow again, and well, do I want to be sitting in something that's particularly slow this morning? No is the answer. And again, it's got a divergence going on its 4 hourly, so I'm wary of that as well. So all the currencies I've seen here at the moment have got a divergence sitting there, apart from the pound, I think. So be wary of a change of direction here, but these divergences can continue to be a larger divergence at some point, or double divergences. So I'm not completely put off from them. Okay, that's pretty much it. News-wise today, we've got retail sales coming out for the pound at 9:30. That can give some quite reasonable kickers, at least 20-30 pips sometimes, and maybe more. Aside of that, we've got some more Canadian data at 1:30. It's not big news. It's a bit like yesterday's. It's sort of I did some more analysis on yesterday's, and it has a blip move every now and again, the ADP number, but it's relatively modest. And this is quite modest stuff coming out. US building permits, it's not the time to get too excited about those, although it might start giving a little bit more of a move, a kicker, but at the moment, not a lot today. Retail sales is the main one out this morning. Okay, have a great day. Bye for now.